No worries, my big brother.
Hey, man, one way or another, we'll get this done.
We get this done.
No doubt. You know, family, and man, thank you, Brother Muhammad. I'm glad that we were able to work this out one way or another. One of the cornerstones to understanding history and culture basically is knowing the difference between episodic and corrective history. Episodic history is when it's given to you in pieces. Like, for instance, for us to understand the kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, it's the big thing everybody does in February when they celebrate African History Month. And it has its place. But there's another problem, and that is when you present information from an episodic perspective, you show ancient Ghana. Well, first of all, it wasn't called Ghana. Ghana was the name of the king. Just like when you go to the kingdom of Mali, the name of the king was Mansa Musa, for instance. And then when you go to the Songhai, the name of the king was Askia. Well, that's the same thing with Ghana. Ghana was not the name of the country. It was how these individuals presented themselves to the king. This is the word for king to them, was Ghana. But to understand these kingdoms, you wonder, well, where did it come from? And because there's such a gap in the episode, they then allow Indo-Europeans to slide in under the guise of Islam and make you believe that it was them who brought the kingdom or the University of Timbuktu, the University of Sankore, into West Africa, because it was episodic. And because there were missing pieces, they slip people in. The same thing they do in Kemet, in Egypt. What they do is they give you the first dynasty, but the first dynasty never really existed. This history has to be rewritten, because what the Indo-European calls the first dynasty was really just a progression from the Kushite kingdom that had come up through Nubia, or what we today call Sudan. So when information is given to you in episodes, they slide other episodes between the episode to make you think that they acquired, if we can use that word, something. But in reality, you have to look at it from a holistic perspective, because when you look at the history of what we call Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, what you come to realize is that there were 4 settlements located in southern Mauritania. And in these 4 settlements, all preceded with the word Dar, Dar Tichet, Dar Nima, okay, Dar Tangent, Dar Walata. There were hundreds of thousands, millions of people in these 4 settlements in southern Mauritania. And about 2,000 years before the Common Era, listen to what this is, because this is happening in West Africa when pyramids are being built in Kemet. This is the holistic history. It just wasn't Egypt that was great. All power, respect to Kemet, to Egypt. But great things were happening in West Africa too. Great things were happening in Central Africa. In fact, all things came up out of Central South Africa through the Twa and Mbuti people. So that when you understand your history from a holistic perspective, then you understand it in its totality, because what would create the kingdom of Ghana in about 2000 BC, because that's how far back that goes. They may try to get you up into the medieval period with the 1100 years after the Common Era, or called AD. But in reality, these kingdoms were flourishing thousands of years before what we call the 3 major kingdoms. But you got to look at it from a holistic perspective and not from an episodic perspective. And that's what becomes very important, to understand it from a holistic, understand your culture from a holistic understanding. Okay, brother, we can go to the next one. So what is episodic? Episodic history is an event or group of events occurring as part of a larger sequence, an incident or period considered in isolation, a finite period in which someone, something, or some event is affected. An episodic view means that you are interested in developing specific parts of the brain, not the whole brain. Synonyms for the episodic or episode is incident, event, occurrence, happening, occasion, experience, adventure, affair, interlude, or chapter. Okay, brother. What is the purpose of episodic history? Episodic history has its place. It's in it. It is very important. But what you have to do is you have to understand the relationship between the episode or the part as it plays to the whole. The parts make up the whole, and the whole is made up of the parts. The purpose is to examine and analyze people, places, and events during a specific period of time. Like, for instance, the Kingdom of Ghana. By the way, that kingdom was called Ouagadougou. It wasn't called Ghana. Africans called it Ouagadougou. And so you study the episode of Ouagadougou or Ghana. Then you study Mali. Then you study Songhai. But the fact of the matter is that they're all the same kingdom. They are just evolving or transforming over time. Okay, brother. Holistic history. What is holistic history? It's characterized by comprehension of the episodes of someone, something, or some event as intimately connected and explicable or explainable only by reference to the whole. You can't understand Ghana if you don't understand the entire settlement that existed over 2,000, 3,000, I'm afraid of dates. There's no way to understand Songhai if you don't understand Mali. You can't understand Mali if you don't understand Ghana or Ouagadougou. But you can't understand Ouagadougou if you don't understand southern Mauritania and what happened. Now, let me take you one step back so that you can understand how holistic it is important to understand. How did these Africans get to southern Mauritania in such large numbers? What brought them there in the first place? And what brought them there was the creation of the desert of Sahara about 5,000 years before the Common Era. There was a river that came out of the Atlas Mountains in Algeria, and it swung around northern Africa and emptied out into southern Mauritania. When Africa went from, it's called the African humid phase, where all of North Africa was rich and green, trees and plants and flowers. They have found crocodile and fish bones under Sahara, which is evidence of the fact, this is part evidence that that area that's a desert was once a thriving, living area with major rivers. And the main river that I'm talking about right now that came down out of the Atlas Mountains in Algeria that swung down through North Africa and emptied out into the west coast of southern Mauritania is called Taman Rasset. Don't believe a word I say, family. Research it. Taman Rassett. Taman Rasset. And this Taman Rasset River, as the Sahara began to grow, so the African humid phase became the African dry phase or arid phase, African arid phase. In this African arid phase, the second evidence of the creation of the desert is the fact that the sands or the dunes of East Africa can be found on the west coast of southern Mauritania. Now, let's take that thought one step further, because when you're dealing with these concepts and you're going back into geology, you begin to understand certain things that are going on, and you begin to see things that are extremely helpful in understanding what's happening in this area. Because when the desert began to encroach on the water and on the greenery, the people on the southern side of the river moved south. The people on the northern side of the river moved north, away from the desert. So there's an expansion going north and south. Now, here's the key. The people who are moving north are going to become the people we today call the Moors. And the people who are moving south are going to be the settlements of Dartichet, Darwalada, Darnima, and Dartangent. So you see holistic history, what you got to look at the whole picture. Because not only did I just tell you who the original West Africans were, I also told you who the Moors were. So they could not have been Indo-Europeans that came across, because these individuals were in North Africa before Islam and Indo-Europeans had even come into Africa. But when you're dealing with things episodically, people can stick little episodes of acquired truth, if you want to call it that, or lies. The treatment of the whole person in a holistic history, the place or the event, taking into account the mental, physical, spiritual, and soulful factors rather than just the episode alone. In holistic history, you're dealing with the whole. A holistic view means that you are interested in developing the whole brain, and synonyms are whole, total, or all. Okay, brother. Correct.
Brother, sorry, brother, Kaba, can I
Yes.
just add that this is so profound what you're going into, because you're going into I use the word Kemetic, but as you said before, it's really the holistic approach, because the people of ancient Kemet, they always taught in a holistic basis. It was the Greeks that came and departmentalized the knowledge and put them into sections. So what you're going back to right now with us, brother, from what I see, is going back to the Aboriginal way of thinking, the Aboriginal way of teaching, the Aboriginal way of understanding, because you dealt with several civilizations all in one, but holistically.
That's it. And when you see the whole picture, my brother Muhammad, when you see the whole picture, some people say, I cannot see the forest for the trees. Some people say, I cannot see the trees for the forest. Africans say, I see the trees in the forest. Episodic focuses in on something. The African brain is so phenomenal. The original brain is so phenomenal because it's based in nature. Nature is our teacher. And so what we're doing here is that, and I want us to keep in mind as we move into African History Month, for us to understand exactly what it is that we're saying, to understand how corrupt, just like this individual that was talking about acquiring. Can you imagine that? You're going to use the word acquire? It's like, it's like people go into the bank and acquire the money in the bank. Can you imagine going to court and the judge say, like, do you plan on giving that money back that you stole? He said, well, considering the time that I went into the bank to take it, I needed that money, so I acquired
it.
It's called dichotomous logic. There's a brother named Dr. Edwin Nichols. You need to bring that brother up on your show, Brother Muhammad. Edwin Nichols.
I'm on it, sir.
Psychologist.
I'm on it.
He has something called, he talks about dichotomous logic. And I'm sure you have examples of this wherever you may be. But I'd like to give you an example that occurred here in the United States not too long ago. In the United States capital, Washington, D.C., there was a protest by peoples of African and other cultures known as Black Lives Matter. And they protested the treatment of African Americans, not only at the hands of the police, but as a society. And these peaceful protesters were met by violent police. That's one case. A couple of months later, right down the block from where this happened, a violent mob attacked peaceful police.
Yes, sir.
Same thing. Two different reactions. Peaceful protesters, violent police. Violent protesters or violent insurrectionists and peaceful police. Same police. Yet their reaction was totally different. And even now, they will attempt to make it seem like the violent insurrectionists were in the right. That family is what we call in psychology cray-cray. That's not crazy. That's cray-cray. Cray-cray is when you should have been institutionalized 10 years ago if you were acting like that. And if you kept acting like that 4 years ago, you should have been on medications. This is what we're dealing with now. We are looking at dichotomous logic. Dichotomous logic is that if you take back what belongs to you, they'll tell you that you're stealing. But when they originally stole it from you, they'll tell you, I acquired it. That's dichotomous logic.
Yes, sir.
That's insanity. And to attempt to explain that, you have to go down the rabbit hole. And if you go down that rabbit hole, that will drive you insane. Because it doesn't make any sense. But right in front of you, you have a person that is in a position in government, daring to tell you stolen property is acquired. And when you look at them, they look at you like they think there's something wrong with you. Don't you understand what I'm saying? I'm speaking English.
In colonial expansion, you know, it sounds so eloquent, so beautiful.
Yes, yes. And so when we're going back into our holistic history, you must validate by those who you respect and not by how things sound. So the purpose is to analyze the person, places, or events comprehensively and concisely to determine what can be done for the events to be corrected. Okay, brother. Culture, okay? In the book Nation Building, the author is Kwame Agio Akoto. His definition of culture is quite comprehensive. Akoto informs us that culture is the sum total of a people's evolving historical and contemporary experience, their values, beliefs, and actions consisting of behavior pattern, symbols, and institutions unique to a people that distinguishes them from another people. When someone wishes to oppress you, there are three things they'll take from you. This is what Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, the great Senegalese scholar, tells us. They will take your history, your language, and your psychological factor. Your psychological factor is what Dr. Leonard Jeffries calls your values, your interests, and your principles. And when they take your history, your language, your values, interests, and principles from you, they superimpose their history, their language, their values, interests, and principles over you. So no matter what decision you come to in your life, It'll never be in your best interest because you ain't looking at the world through your eyes. The options and decisions you make cannot be in your best interest because you are looking at the world through someone else's eyes who you will never be. You are not now. And so as we look to Chicago and to other parts of the world where we treat each other so horribly, we have to understand that we are not in our own cultural mind. Dr. Wade Nobles tells us that culture is to a human as water is to a fish. You live in it. I don't know, you've heard the story about the crabs in a basket, where they'll say that if they, you know, that we as Black folk are in the basket, and every time one of us tries to get out, one of us pulls up that one down again. And we laugh about that story and we understand it. Yeah, sometimes we do that to each other. But considering what I just told you about water to the fish and culture is to the human, what I want us to do is I want us to take that basket of crabs and bring it back into the water and put the crabs back in their natural environment. And what you'll notice about crabs is they actually help each other. They sit atop each other while the top one eats. And then when the top crab eats, it goes down to lift the group up so that the next one can eat. And then that one goes down and lifts the other group up so that the other top one can eat. So in fact, it is very natural for a natural being to act unnatural when they have been taken out of their natural environment and put in an unnatural environment. It is unfortunate how we're treating each other. It is unfortunate how brothers treat sisters, how sisters sometimes treat brothers, how we're getting along in our families. The fact that we could put a gun to each other's head and blow it off and not think anything. That is unfortunate. But we are acting like fish out of water. We are acting unlike our natural. So if you want to see an improvement, return us back to our natural environment. And you will see we will not kill each other. Like the crabs will help each other. And this is what our brother Kwame Akoto is telling us. And as we move on, you'll see more examples. Okay, brother. What is culture? Culture constructs, it builds, it nurtures perception of self-concept, spiritual and material. It develops human relations. It understands mortality, life, living. It understands reciprocity, one of the principles of Ma'at. Reciprocity says what goes around comes around. Reciprocity says you shall reap what you sow. This is how you know that Indo-Europeans could not be the religious beings they claimed to be. Because if they believed, they would know reciprocity. And they would know if you enslave others, you will live eternally enslaved yourself. If you acquire, I can't get over that guy. If you acquire, and he said it with a straight face, that's what really.
Straight face, brother, straight face. All you need is a posh accent and it sounds true. It's embarrassing.
It's amazing as we listen and we know and we understand what goes around comes around. You shall reap what you sow. And sometimes if you do something real good, it'll come back to you sevenfold. But just like that, when you do something that's not good, it'll come back at you sevenfold. And I see by nature alone, A lot of times we can talk about what's happening here in the United States. People in UK talk about what's going on in UK. People in Holland talk about what's going on in Holland. People in Brazil talk about what's going on. But nature has come down upon us as a world and has said, I don't like how you've been acting. So I'm going to put all of you in your houses. I'm tired of it. I didn't bring you into this world to act like this. And so now I'm going to put all of you on a timeout. Get in your house. You don't like each other? Then I'm going to make it so you got to distance yourself from each other 6 feet. You don't like to touch each other? I'm going to make it so you got to wash your hands 85,000 times a day. I'm not going to drop a bomb and I'm not going to fire a gun. But I'm going to come through with tornadoes and with hurricanes. And I'm going to put you in your house and then I'm going to knock your house down because I don't like how you've been acting. Think about what I'm saying, family. Nature is talking to us right now. Mother Nature, the cosmic mother, has had enough of humanity's foolishness. Nature said, I created the entire world for you. All of the food that you needed to eat was on the planet before you came into existence. All the things you needed to know, all the things you needed to see, I put in existence before you came because I wanted it so that when you came, my prized possession, the masterpiece, you are the creator having a human experience. I wanted all of this to be for you so you didn't have to learn how to do it. I put it and set your table for yourself. But now you're acting up. You're getting cute with yourself. You're thinking that you're somebody that you're not. And now I got to come through, baby. And I'm going to have to clean the earth. And I'm sorry, but please stay out of my way. You know I'm coming. So stay out of my way, because if you get in my way, even the innocent is going to get it. You know, like when mama was taking that belt or that switch and she was swinging it around, she was trying to hit the people that was acting up. But if you, the innocent, got in the way, you got hit too. She said, well, baby, I told you don't get in my way. This is what's happening on the earth now.
Good teaching, King. Good teaching.
This is where we are, family. Nature is talking to us now. And she's saying, you got to go back to your culture. You got to go back to truth and beauty. You got to go back to the cosmic traditions that existed before you were on the planet. In fact, before your planet existed, before your sun existed, there was a tradition in the cosmos. And everything was natural. But then we gave you free will. And then you started telling me no. But I told you how to do it. Here's the language that I want you to speak. Nature taught us how to speak. She taught us the art because most of the art was already here. The pyramids are really replications of a natural phenomenon in geology on the earth known as ring tumuli, which are like mountains. And so the idea of being able to tell time according to the shadow that was cast on the ring tumuli was what later became the pyramids, or the miru. There was music. Culture is in music, literature, and your group goals. Culture. Okay, brother. Cultural direction is grounded in the community. How a people think, talk, eat, walk, dress, love, hate, and fight are a consequence of their cultural orientation, because humans are not born pre-wired, and what we learn comes primarily from our environment. There are few actions initiated individual or group outside of a cultural influence. Environment. That's what economics means. Eco comes from the Greek word oikos, which means home or environment. Economics doesn't mean money. It means utilizing your environment that the Creator gave you to promote, enhance, and embellish your society that you do through a cultural common sense. Okay, brother. Cultural VIPs, values, interests, and principles. Culture is an explicit and implicit process of thought and behavior based on certain mythological, spiritual, and ideological assumptions that defines and motivates a people to fashion their reality in their own geographical, historical, political, economic, and social values, interests, and principles. And when someone makes you live the world looking through their eyes and not yours, that's a problem. Okay, brother. Culture. Psychologically, for an individual to be without a knowledge of hers or his culture is to literally be out of their mind, without a blueprint for analyzing the past, negotiating the present, or building the future. Culture. Okay, brother.
Can I just add as well, my dear professor?
Please feel free.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I remember when I first was introduced to the teachings, and he said the number one teaching can be summed up in one simple sentence, which is what you're touching on there: accept your own and be yourself. And I think a lot of what you're going into there is that if you don't know who yourself is, if you have no idea of your culture and your self-knowledge, you're literally out of your mind, sick.
That is it. And, just as a side note, I do webinars every Tuesday. There's a webinar up now. You can go to my website, kabakamene.com, or to my Instagram. And you'll see that I have webinars, quick webinars. And there's one that I do just on that, Brother Muhammad, in terms of the intrapersonal, the self-knowledge. And I give us 4 steps in understanding this from another perspective. The first step is to know yourself, self-knowledge. The next step is to manage yourself, which is self-discipline. When you know yourself and when you can discipline yourself, then you can know others. When you know others, the 4th step is to manage others, which is leadership. But the first step is self-knowledge. You have to know who you are. Now, where we're going to go now, I'm taking from a book that's titled Infusion of African and African American Content in the School Curriculum, Proceedings of the First National Conference. This is a essay was taken out, written by Dr. Wade Nobles, brilliant scholar out of California. And his essay is titled The Infusion of African and African American Content, a question of content and intent. Now, family, understand the difference between content and intent. Content is what you teach. Intent is how you teach it. And there's a difference, big difference. There's a Moorish proverb that says, once you learned what you set out to learn, you can put that to the side because it was the process of learning it that was the education. And that comes from neuron connections in the brain during the process of learning. And from an African perspective, that is holistic. This essay is on page 4 to 24. Okay, my brother. Here's Dr. Noble's definition of culture. Culture is a human process representing the vast structure of behaviors, ideas, attitudes, values, habits, beliefs, customs, language, rituals, ceremonies, and practices peculiar to a particular group of people, and which provides them with a general design for living and patterns for interpreting their reality. Okay, brother. He continues. The system of culture teaches the people to recognize phenomena and to respect certain logical relations amongst phenomena. Culture gives meaning to reality. Let me ask you this. As it relates to European culture, when you heard that man say that what they acquired, did that give any meaning to anybody's reality living in a real world?
Teach.
Just think about it. Just sit back and listen. Understand what happened. They went in and they just robbed Africa. They robbed the world, tell you the truth, of melanated people. But just let's look at Africa, and let's specifically look at Benin. Because I go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art here in New York. So it's just not in UK. Here in New York, they got all sorts of Benin doors and brass and gold and all sorts of things. Okay, they acquired that. That's not reality, family. That's not reality. And to look at them with any sense of semblance of how could you continue? That's why the brother had that look on his face. How can I keep talking to you when you're insane? What could I possibly get of value out of this conversation?
Woo! Woo!
Just think about it, family. This is who we're dealing with. Here in the United States, there in UK. I got my eye on UK. I see what's going on over there. That's why I think that the work that y'all are doing is phenomenal. The work we're doing here is phenomenal. Don't get lost in the translation. We see a lot of things happening in this world. But family, like Malcolm said, they did this. Malcolm say, you know, you got to know the difference between a house Negro and a field Negro. And that when the massa is sick, some Africans say, boss, we sick? There are other Africans that hope that he die. This is according to where you are, if you're in a house or if you're in the field. Massa mean nothing to you when you're in the field. If the house go on fire, there are some Africans that will say, boss, our house is on fire.
Hey.
There are other Africans that will wish the wind would blow so that the whole house fall down. According to if you're in a house or if you're in the field. How you feel towards what's happening in the world today. The Indo-European system is falling again. Family, you know, they have never been able to maintain a civilization longer than 500 years in their existence. The old kingdom alone of Kemet lasted for over 2,200 years. The old kingdom of Kemet lasted longer than Indo-Europeans.
Brother Kaba, please, can you say that one more time, just in case someone at the back couldn't hear you?
Okay, for the people in the back, I'm going to prove it. When Cambyses and the Persians, Indo-Europeans, came in to Kush Kemet around 525 BC, that is when many scholars, African scholars, believe that that is when the Africanness of Kemet ended. Up until 525. We're talking about Kemet. We're not talking about Africa, just Kemet, that northeast quadrant up there. Cambyses and the Persians came in and they toppled the government and they took over. Gave nothing to the country, had nothing. There was nothing but warriors. By 332, Alexander, the Macedonian, he wasn't a Greek. Macedonia didn't exist either, but that's another side point. But when Alexander came in 332, they took over and defeated the Persians. So the Persian Empire in Kemet lasted from basically 525 to 332. Alexander came in 332 BC, and by 30 BC, Rome came in and kicked the Greeks out. So that's give or take, what, 300 years? Then the Romans came in 30 BC, and by 400, they already had fallen. Okay, 30 BC to about 3 or 4, let's just give them some credit. Let them take the 400 AD. You're dealing with, 430 years. And then Europe went into total decline because the Germanic tribes that came down, the Visigoths and the Vandals came down and just plugged. And then Africans in North Africa, same Africans I was talking about before that was escaping the desert, that moved north. These Africans saw what was going on, that there was a southern push of these Germanic Visigoths and Vandals. And so there was a preemptive strike that was done by the Africans in 710 and brought civilization back. For 700 years, the Moorish Empire lasted longer than any Indo-European civilization has ever existed. This is evidence not just by us, but by their history books. And then in 1492, after the Moors brought Europe out of its dark ages, cured itself of all the different diseases and viruses and COVID this and COVID that and attacks on the immune system, they returned on the same roads going back that Africans went into Europe. Europe came out and discovered for them the world. So from 1492 until now, a little over, give or take, if you want to look at it as 500 years, give or take, the Oman Empire is falling. Babylon is falling. And every single one of those civilizations fell because they acquired things. They never created things. This is their history. This is their culture. But family, as we sit here talking about this, and we may be looking at what's happening around the world, what are we doing? What are we doing? We can point the finger out, and I understand that. But nature is looking at us and saying, okay, but you know it. What are you doing about it? Are you just spending your time complaining? Are you spending your time demanding that they give you something? All that stuff that they acquired, you can do that again. You spend all of your life trying to get back what they stole, as opposed to creating it again in a positive way. Yeah, you're going to get that back because they're on their way out. You're going to be able to walk into the museum and take it eventually. But the question is, what are we doing now to educate our children? To help them understand what culture is.
Teach.
What are we doing for West Side Academy? Really? When we understand economics ain't money. What you would give them to support them, that's not what's important. What's important is what they're going to do with what you give them. That's important. Money is an illusion. It doesn't exist. What exists is Africa. The richest, natural, geographical place on the planet is Africa. What are we doing? Who and what are we supporting? Culture gives meaning to reality. Okay, brother.
Come on, brother.
Brother, I'm going to just stop you quickly there. I've got a couple of people. I think you whizzed through a little bit too quickly for them to jot down some of the dates that you started with. I think Sandra is asking for you to just repeat the dates that you mentioned from 1492.
Okay, let me be careful and tell you this. These dates are as accurate as they can be.
Mm-hmm.
But let me give you, let's go back to the Persian. This is when Africa was somewhere at its height. It was at the 6th Napatan dynasty, what is also called the 25th dynasty. And what was happening in the world, that the world was changing from the Bronze Age into the Iron Age. And the weapons and the fighting utensils were changing from being bronze to being iron. And Cambyses, 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 a Persian, or who we today call Iranian, Indo-European, came into Kemet and took it over. 525 BC. But by 332 BC, Alexander came into Kemet and pushed the Persians out. So from 525 to 332 BCE, that's one civilization, Indo-European, what we call Persian. 332 with Alexander to 30 BC when the Romans came in. So you're dealing with, give or take, 300 years. That's how long the Greeks ruled. And then from 30 BC until about, let's just give it 400 with the fall of the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire was falling by the time of the Council of Nicaea. It was already falling. And check this out. There's a book that's titled Blacks Who Died for Jesus. It was written by Mark Hyman, Hyman. There's a chapter in that book called Arius, the Black Bishop. Arius was invited to the Council of Nicaea. Arius had a view towards Jesus Christ. Because the other thing we have to know about Jesus Christ is Jesus Christ was not viewed as a God for the first 500 years of Christianity. The God that was worshipped, believe it or not, was Imhotep. He was the Jesus Christ of the ancient Roman world. And so it becomes very important to understand what it is that we're dealing with. And so he got wind that they were going to murder him. Constantine was going to murder him when he got to Constantinople. So he said, homie ain't no fool. So he ran up into the mountains and his followers went with him of Europe. Arius was a black bishop. His followers were black, but then the movement also included other Europeans. Wouldn't Hitler have had a heart attack if he had known the Aryan race he was creating was really a group of black people and not blonde blue-eye?
Brother, you're going too deep, brother. Jeez, brother, you're dropping bombs today, brother.
You know, I saw somebody that came on. I think they had a question, Camilla Peters, and she said something about dyslexia. Can you see that comment by Camilla?
Yes, sir. She asked if she can have a copy of the recording because she's dyslexic.
Okay. Let me say something to my sister in terms of my study of dyslexia. It doesn't exist. Dyslexia is what I call other gifted. This civilization, this Western civilization, doesn't know how to deal with other gifts. They have a standard of what they consider to be intelligent. And they've created all these names for things that people that don't follow along with what they do. I have worked with many children in my career who they say are dyslexic. but I introduced him to knowledge another way, just like Sister has asked for a copy. The way in which some people, everybody doesn't have to assimilate information the way Indo-Europeans say intelligence is. And one of the things that we have done is fallen into this educational system where they label us meaning just everybody, everybody's labeled. Autism, some of the most brilliant human beings I've ever met in my life were autistic. Some of the most phenomenal thinkers I have ever met were people that were said to be dyslexic. What we have to do is find another way of learning. There's another way of learning. There are multiple ways of learning, that nature has many different ways of learning. Our system is an edu business that doesn't have time to go into those brilliant minds and bring out their genius. So they'd rather put people in categories and then make money out of that category. Special education, to me, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life were in special education.
Woo!
And some of the people that I have met that didn't amount to much in life were the ones that got straight A's in school. I'm not saying that's absolute. That's not an absolute statement. I've met many people who were very intelligent academically, but they were emotionally unstable. I've met some children that could not get past 70 on a test in school, but they were the future leaders of the planet. And so I just wanted to say that piece to my sister to get us up out of this concept that there's something wrong. Ain't nothing wrong. What's wrong is this society. And this society is falling right now. And it's falling very quickly. And we got to get ourselves together. Okay, brother.
Can I just quickly say, brothers and sisters, that if you study the history of our brother, Professor Kaba Kamene, is coming from an educational platform. I just wanted to let them know, brother, you're not just talking at the top of your head. This is something, this is the field of your expertise. Am I correct, sir?
My life, I have been an educator since August of 1977. And I have worked, I've taught every grade, I've taught every subject, and I've taught college. I am the spook who sat by the classroom door.
Come on.
I'm the brother that watched the system in order to come back and talk to you, family, about this system. I never accepted it, but I dealt with it because I knew I had to get to this point. Now I'm at a point, retired after 31 years, 3 months and 15 days in the New York City Board of Education, walking the streets of South Central Bronx. That's where I taught, South Central Bronx, all the years of my career. I travel around the country. I travel around the city. I've worked on state level, federal level, all so that I could study this system and Africanize it. That's what I'm doing. I'm Africanizing this.
But brother, you're on such a flow. And forgive me for coming in at this point, Brother King. Brother, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up as you're teaching tonight. I just want to quickly just check something, Professor Kaba. Brothers and sisters in the listening audience, there's over 400 plus of you on the platform right here today. That's just those of you on computers. Would you like me to invite Professor Kaba to come back in the future to talk about the different ways of learning, ADHD, special needs, and reversing our understanding of education? Because I don't know about you right now. I am literally sweating right now listening to this brother. It's absolutely magnificent. Let me know right now, brothers and sisters, if you'd like me to have a behind the scenes discussion with our brother to bring him back on just to talk about this concept of education, because I'm blown. And this to me is no plaything. We're talking about people's lives who have been suffering under labels. And this brother is twisting up the game. Imagine this brother with Lady Adele on the same platform. Oh my goody gum. Professor Kaba, if you can see the chat room right now, this is not me saying it, so I'm not trying to massage your ego, brother. If you look at that chat room right now, you can see not just us in the UK, but all over the world. We need to do something with you, my king, just on this educational process. So forgive me for stopping you, brother. Please get back to your culture because, brother, you are filling our stomachs today.
Fantastic. That's phenomenal. And that's why I'm here. This is the purpose of my life. I am doing what I was born to do. It took me all this time to get here, to create the background, to be able to come before you and give you the evidence. I've never been one for just coming to emotionally present information. I'm about science. I'm about knowledge and wisdom to be able to take this. We are the African scientists that are now coming back through our existence. There is a way to do this. We can do this, family. I want you to know that. And it's not overwhelming. It's challenging, but it's not overwhelming. And just to finish what we had started, and then we'll do this particular slide, was that going into Europe and then the squashing of that, what actually happened, the Roman Empire fell. The Roman Empire fell because of Roman pagans from the Germanic areas that came down and they conquered all of these individuals. They conquered the Roman Empire. They settled themselves in Spain and Portugal and some in Italy. The Ostrogoths were over there. And Africans saw this. And Africans said, no, we ain't going to let them get into Africa, so we're going to make an attack first. They had already been exposed to them during the Punic Wars. They said, we ain't going to let them come in. So they came across and they conquered Spain and Portugal as a preemptive strike, not to let the Europeans get into North Africa. And Africans stayed in Europe and ruled Europe. Robin Walker will tell you this next month, for over 700 years. The Moorish Empire lasted longer than any Indo-European civilization has ever existed. The Kemetic Old Kingdom lasted longer than any Indo-European. When you look at the math of this family, Indo-Europeans have never, ever been able to sustain a civilization more than 500 years. They don't have the scholastic ability. They are scholastic. They are scholastically sterile and intellectually impotent.
Boy, brother, ease up for them words, brethren. God.
Evidence. They couldn't give birth to an idea if we planted the fetus in their brain.
Oh no. Brother, why are you going there for? Why are you going there?
I'm just feeling like that right about now.
Brother, why are you going there?
Because I want us to understand, family, how much this depends on us. Ain't nobody going to do nothing for us. And even if they did, I wouldn't want them. They are not the measure of man that I wish to measure my manhood by. They don't have what it takes to take what we got. And we have to understand how great we really are. And the first thing we have to do is stop fighting amongst ourselves.
Come on.
You across the pond. But if I take a boat, I'll be over there. And when I go over there, I'm with my family. When I visited UK, I was treated so wonderful. I was family. I had brothers from Nigeria, sisters from Ghana, brothers and sisters from the Caribbean. In UK, we were family. When I went to Holland, family spoke Dutch, I spoke English, but we both acted African. We were family. Nebu Afrika, Pan-African. It's Pan-African or it's going to be perish. No one of us is going anywhere alone. Together, as an African people, we are rising. And culture has the power to compel behavior and the capacity to reinforce ideas and beliefs about human functioning, including issues of educational achievement and motivation. Culture is the invisible medium in which all human function occurs. It is important to note Nothing human happens outside of culture. Okay, brother. He continues, culture is to humans as water is to fish. It is our total environment. Education as well as curriculum development is cultural phenomena. Culture is therefore the invisible dimension of all curricula. Hence, just as the nature of the water, salt versus fresh versus polluted, influences the reality or the survivability of particular types of fish, so do different cultural systems influence the reality of particular groups of people. Okay, brother. All of our training and education are bound by what we call customs or professional conventions, which are nothing more than cultural traits or rituals. Culture is like water, and like a fish out of water, some humans can be out of their culture, quite frankly, out of their minds, and therefore, and thereby act inappropriately or fail to thrive. Okay, brother. Culture is like the electricity that illuminates the light bulb. We can only know or understand the electricity by what it does. We need practice with education that's appropriate for African children. Then it should be clear that we need to understand the electricity, the culture that's going to guide that practice. Okay, brother. Culture is really the sum total of the human process. What matters is how we use the spirit and the energy, the electricity of a people. Okay, brother. What is a core culture? Core culture is the central portion or strand or essence of the process, which gives the group its general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. Culture is the essential spirit or energy of the group, which characterizes and is reflected in all processes consistent with the group's cultural reality, including educational content and methods. Okay, brother. Now, the definition of teaching style or methodology. Teaching style is a particular manner, method, way or form of 1, transmitting information and knowledge, 2, encouraging the learning process, and 3, orchestrating a set of experiences designed to foster development and maturation. When I developed the pillars of my school, I call this OPENX, opportunities, environment, and experiences. Opportunities for growth, environments for learning, and experiences in individual and social ascendancy and consciousness. OPENX, opportunities, environments, experiences, must be Africanized. Okay, brother. Curriculum is a systematic study guide. Curriculum, when you get into the school, what is curriculum? A course of studies whose purpose is to, 1, systematically guide the transmission of information and knowledge, and 2, reinforce the desire to learn and to know. Okay, brother. Now, here's where we got it. Now we're going to round out here. Curriculums should be grounded in social studies themes. In other words, you have 4 major subject areas. Basically, this is what they say. You have science, you have math, you have language arts, and you have social studies. You also have other subjects like arts and crafts, dance, music, physical education, all those. But the 4 major ones basically is math, science, language arts, social studies. Okay.
So, big brother, just one quick question as you're going through this, but I know we're doing this last bit now. And I'm a firm believer in what you say, brother, in terms of Africanizing our learning. And I use this term every single day, curriculum. But when we look at the word curriculum, it literally means like a race course, a horse race course. The word correct literally means to run. Is there another terminology, brother? This is just a sincere question to you, King. Is there another terminology that we can use instead of curriculum? I mean, we can use it, but I'm you know, as someone who uses it every single day myself, it just means a race course. It literally means a race. And to me, that is not the African way of looking at education.
I would not use a word. I would use a concept or a phrase.
Yes, sir.
Finding your divine gift.
Mm.
And everything you study should be taking you to that point.
Absolutely, King.
Everything that you learn, whether it's math or science, whatever it may be. But I realize that we're on a bridge. And I realize that what I say to us here as Africans,
yes, sir,
willing to accept it is one thing. But when I go out and I'm talking to teachers, or if I'm doing this presentation to people who don't understand the Africanization of what the word curriculum means. Yes, curriculum basically is just a pattern of learning in order to find the divine gift that you've been given.
Mm.
That's really why you're in school.
Absolutely, brother.
That's your purpose. What's your divine gift? See, because I can't teach skills. You can't teach skills. You're born with skills. What I do is I teach strategies to enhance, embellish, and improve your God-given skills.
Yes, sir.
My approach towards it in the classroom is like you already know everything that I'm saying. That's the way in which I talk.
Yes, sir.
It's not like I'm teaching you something.
Absolutely, my brother.
I am only making you aware that you already know it. And the way you talk to somebody is different. The way I'm talking now is different than the way some people might do a presentation, thinking that I'm giving everybody, 415 people I see so far who's online, not to mention everybody else, all of you came to this meeting already knowing everything I'm saying.
Woo!
All I'm doing is assisting you in recognizing
Come
that
on,
you already
my brother.
I'll give you an example. I do it all the time. I'm sure I've done it here. All the lights are out. Can't see a thing. All of a sudden you find a light switch. You turn the light on. You see the chairs, the tables, the television, the art on the wall. My question, did all those things appear in the room the moment you turned the light on?
Come on.
They were always there. Your light just wasn't on.
Always there. Always there.
Your light wasn't on. I can't turn your light switch on. Only you can do that. But the reality of what I'm facing is the reality that in a classroom, it's like being in that dark room searching for the light switch. I'm not going to turn that light switch on. I can't reach that light switch in your life. Only you can do that. And so the idea of when you're dealing with these issues and Africanizing it, what a curriculum is a set pattern of study that allows you to find the gift that you've been given to share with the world, whatever it may be, or how many gifts it may be. But in that learning process, it should be based in the social studies themes, which is geography, history, politics, economics, and social. Social studies answers the questions in life. Geography answers the question, where? History, when? Politics, how? Economics, what? Social, who? And 5 together holistically answer the question, why? In pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, now, I realize that our educational system may be different. That's why I put the ages up there. Basically, from the ages of 3 to 7, what children learn in social studies is about me, self-exploration. But the math, the science, and all of that should be about self-exploration. Math could be how many fingers you have, counting your toes, how many bones. You know, we sing that song, the hip bone connected to the whatever bone. Well, okay, that's math. That's biology too, when you learn about parts of your body. All subject areas should focus in on that theme of self-exploration. The next year, which in the United States is grade 1, but I'm sure that it differs in terms of the terminology, but you're dealing with ages 3 to 7. The next level is you go from where you are, self-exploration. What's the next entity you come in contact with outside of yourself? It's your family. So you study your family in social studies. Mother, father, stepfather, however your family is structured. We have varying families nowadays. And so family is different. But in that family, you study your math, you study your science. There's a lot to study about as it relates to the social studies theme of family, but all the other subjects, the books that you read in school, deal with family. All day long, that child is being immersed in the concept of family, but they're learning all the different subject areas focused in on that family. Grade number 2, community. What, after you come out of yourself, you meet your family. What's the next entity you meet after your family? You step outside your door, your community. Again, subject areas based around community. Okay, brother. Okay, now here we go. Ages 8 to 11. The next is communities around the world. Okay, now you know your family, you know your community. Now we're going to take you around the world and you're going to meet communities around the world. How is a family living in a community in Nigeria? How about a family that's living in Jamaica? What are people like? What are their families like? What are their communities like? You know, when I was in the 3rd grade, when I was teaching 3rd grade, one of the things I used to do is we used to have little corners, because I had children from around the world in my class, and I would have them go home, and I would set up like a area that was Jamaica, and everything like the flag of Jamaica, the Dr. Bird, which is the bird of Jamaica, different types of foods, pictures. We'd have a little section of Jamaica. And then we'd have families from Puerto Rico, and we do the same there. And the one thing that happened because of the way I work is I Africanized everything. And it didn't make a difference where you were from in the world. I could find Africa in your section. And and that brought the children together. I had children from Mexico that I showed them pictures of Africans in Mexico. And some of the students said, that looked like my uncle. And it was a brother or a sister. Now, next one. Now, here in the United States, the 4th grade, or as you get older, the next grade, you study U.S. history through local history from an African perspective. But because I'm speaking to brothers and sisters based in UK, all around the world, but I'm using the UK. What is the role of Africans in Britain? That's what you study. What did people in UK, what is the role of Africans in UK? This is where you can make connections to Trinidad, to Jamaica, you know, to Barbados, to all of the English-speaking islands, Dominica. This is where you can start to make different, but it has to be the local history. But then you go into the Western world, not the Western hemisphere, the Western world, this is where you start going into the Caribbean, Central South America. There's a lot of people that don't realize that in Central America, that there is a country that basically at one time spoke English. They don't realize that in you can go to South America. Guyana speaks English. In fact, in South America, Spanish is not the largest spoken language. It's Portuguese. And so from the Western perspective, you look at the world from an African perspective, and then grade 6 is world geography and geology, where you do some heavy study on world geography and geology. Okay, brother. Middle school for us, or ages 12 to 14, world history from an African perspective. From the origin of humanity to that date, 525 BCE. The next year, world history from an African perspective, 525 BCE to 1492 ACE. Critical dates, because it's in those dates that you're going to really understand the failure of the Indo-European world and the unfortunate situation that the melanated world was put in. But then the next grade is the hemispheric history from an African perspective, pre-1492 until October of 1492. Okay, brother. And then high school, ages 15 to 17. Hemispheric history from an African perspective. You're dealing with hemispheric history in UK. Your hemisphere includes Africa, by the way. It's important to understand that. Africa is in hemisphere, okay? North and south travels east and west. From 1492. And then grade 11, UK history from an African perspective, 1870 to 1945, because you need to study immigration to the end of World War II. Listen, immigration did not start in 1900s in the United States. Immigration to the United States from Europe started in 1870 when Africans were in the Reconstruction period, and the Europeans here in America did not want to give the jobs to Africans, so they brought their tired, they're weak, they're dirty, they're hungry from Europe to America in 1870, not the 1900s. That's when immigration started. And then the next year is in two parts. UK history from an African perspective, from the end of World War II until 1965. And then out of this, you're going to have the independence movements in the Caribbean, Central South America, Africa. It's important to know that. And then you had the post-World War II, which is the civil rights movement, not just in America, around the world. Then part 2 is UK history from an African perspective, from 1965 to the present, which includes the civil rights, the human and the independence movement, to 1945, post-World War II, to 2008, which is the election of President Barack Obama in the United States, and all the events that would happen around the world from there, from an African perspective. And you go right up into the last president, because you got to take his thing from 2016 to another section. And that's what we're looking at here. And this is how we can develop this history. But every country has to do it their way. In Jamaica, the same way I put UK history here, you put Jamaican history there. In Puerto Rico, in República Dominicana, in Haiti, in Ecuador, Bolivia, wherever it is, in Holland, you study your history from an African perspective. And then you blend it with all the other subject areas, but all the subject areas, the math and the science, and that's what I do. If you want to see an example of that, I encourage you to go to my a website that I helped build the curriculum in Indianapolis, Indiana. www.thehistoricjourney.org. You'll see the curriculum I'm talking about. And then you just take that and you apply your own cultural common sense from your country, from wherever you may be, from Azania in South Africa to Ghana to Kenya. You can take it all and it all blends together as it relates to looking at it holistically. Okay, my brother. So let's wrap it up now. And let's end where we began. Culture. What you're going to celebrate next month. Culture. Just like agriculture, you cultivate your plants. You help them grow. You make sure they get the proper water. You make sure they get the proper sunlight. You make sure they get the proper minerals. You cultivate. That's culture. You cultivate the children like you cultivate a plant. You give it everything that it needs, the water, the water of wisdom, air. Make sure they get that oxygen, health, nutrition, minerals. They're eating the proper foods. They're digesting the proper information. Culture is the vast structure of behaviors, ideas, attitudes, values, habits, beliefs, customs, language, rituals, ceremonies, and practices peculiar to a particular group of people, which provides them with a general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. The system of culture teaches the people to recognize phenomena and to respect certain logical relations amongst phenomena. Culture gives meaning to reality. It gives you direction in your life. It supplies you with all the nutrients you need to find the divine gift that was given to you by the Creator. That is God-given, not human-given. And that which is God-given cannot be taken by man or woman. You only have one enemy, and that is the Judas that dwells within, that is constantly telling you what you can't do. But the reality, family, is you can do whatever you set your mind to, because Judas will fall 9 times, but the Messiah in you will rise 10. So just keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till we win. Okay, brother.
My God, brother Michael's already clapping. Brother, please, can I say these words, brother? I'm not even gonna laugh. I'm not even gonna crack joke. I'm gonna say to you, brother, Sani Banani, I see you, brother. And in that seeing you, brother, I'm gonna say, as a black man to another black man, I love you, brother. And I say on behalf of the community around the world, especially those of us in the UK, we love you, black man. You can't teach like that and not have the spirit of the Most High dwelling inside you, brother. And as you said, everything that you said, we know, we can bear witness to, and we will literally cherish, brother. I just had one person on the platform just now just state that they are 70, I think they said 73 or 75 years old, and they feel as if they are in a classroom right now. They are literally in a classroom, because no matter how old you are, brother, you're bringing back what it says in the scripture, that the children come to me as children, and we on this platform, brother, we come like children today, brother. And 70, you in your 70s, you're like a child. We thank you so much, brother. And I honor you. I mean, Sister Shanice, just, what's your views on what you heard our brother say tonight, sister?
Wow, absolutely phenomenal. I learned so much tonight. I just want to thank our brother, from the bottom of my heart, really. I was like almost just lulled into silence to just have to absorb, all the information that was dropping from off of our brother's lips. And, it just reinforced the importance of culture. Culture is clearly so important. And I think you were saying, if from a quote, if you deny a person their culture and their history, it's as if they never existed. And I just felt that that's what, we've been denied and are being denied. We here in the UK have been indoctrinated into a Eurocentric culture. And so it just makes me realize from all of what you were saying, how are we going to find our true gifts and our talents if we're not in our right mind, because the software in our brain isn't African, it's European. It's just, wow, it's been phenomenal learning. And, as the saying goes, we've got to unlearn everything so that we can relearn again.
Everything. Sister Shanice, I'm going to bring you in a second again. Brother, you've been teaching for a long time. And we don't want to extend your time, because we know you've got lots more to do today. We've got quite a number of questions in the Q&A box. We can't go through all of them, brother, because we want to honor you. We want to respect you, brother. We don't want to wear you out. We know you're still 5 hours behind us, and you've probably still got another engagement to do. But I'll ask you 1 or 2 questions, brother, and you can spend 10 seconds if you want to answer it. It's up to you, brother. But I'll ask 1 or 2 quick questions, brother. Adisa Stevens asks, can you share the source of the quotes from Dr. Wade Noble's on culture? Can you share?
Yes, it was that book that I showed in the beginning, the infusion. You showed on the slide projector. I shouldn't say that. You show when you put the PowerPoint up, there was a book that was called The Infusion of the School Curriculum. That was Lucretia Richards, I think, Asa Hilliard, and Wade Nobles.
Okay.
But it's on my PowerPoint.
No, sir.
But it's The Infusion. It was done in 1992. It was a conference.
Yes, sir.
And it was written by Wade Nobles. You can Google Wade Nobles.
Fantastic, brother. Fantastic. Next question is, how do you define your culture when you are of mixed multiracial, when you are a mixed multiracial individual? How do you define your culture when you are of a mixed multiracial individual?
Culture is who you are. And, when we are, there's only one race on the planet, and that's the human race. And because of biological climatology, this human race was conceived, born, nurtured, educated, sustained, and civilized in Africa. And when Africans got their show together, the Twa and Mbuti, then they took it on the road. The Twa and Mbuti are derogatorily called pygmies. The Twa and Mbuti, the Khoisan of Central and South Africa, the original human being. What the Indo-European has done in their xenophobic insanity is that they have created groups that never existed before they thought about that. It is hard to speak of what do you do, but the thing is, everybody's African, and you embrace your Africanity, and your culture is where you come from, and what you do, it's your water, it's your existence. And the unfortunate thing for people who have various different cultures within their, because you see, white is not a race. Asian is not a race. It's an ethnic stock. They made themselves a race, but they're not a race. They're an ethnic stock, which is a mutation from the original archetype African. And so to anybody, I say, know who you are, even beyond the concept of Africa. See, because I'm going to tell you something else. There is no such thing as an African-centered curriculum. Because when Africans first started teaching, they were the only ones on the planet. So they didn't say this for African people. There was nobody else. Now, the reason why I call it African-centered is because somebody stole our legacy, or should I say acquired? I think we need to rewrite that book. We're not going to call it stolen legacy no more. We're going to call it acquired legacy. Yo, you can't get, hey, that is the looniest tune. But the thing is, that person is someone of, according to the civilization, a person of stature.
Stature, brother, stature.
This is a person that's looked upon with respect.
Stature.
He a Looney Tune. And we're looking at him, and he's saying that, and we're saying, but where do I go with this? What can I say? But you see, that's the world they created. You know, when I was growing up, my mother told me, she says, Skip, let me tell you something. You know, when I got to be a teenager, started getting interested in dating, and she said, don't you never bring a white girl in my house. And she said, it's not because it's wrong. She said, it's because Europeans are not mature enough to be able to deal with that relationship. She said, we are all God's creatures. We are all God's creations. And the fact that if two cultures could come together and procreate, it means that they're the same. But my mother said, I didn't raise you to be the man you're going to become for someone fool in her family that's going to call you out your name. Everywhere you go, you're going to have to deal with that. The Indo-European has created a problem that they will eventually be destroyed by. That which they built is the Frankenstein monster. And now here you got Dr. Frankenstein wondering what he's going to do with his monster. And the thing that is going to happen is that the monster going to kill you. And so to anyone of any cultural background, be you. Just be you. Study you. Know you. That's all we can say. Can't come down hard on nobody. And this is another topic that we're going to have to get into, you know.
Yes.
If we're really going to cleanse ourselves of our problems, intercultural relationships is something we're going to have to talk about. Okay, if we're going to solve this. Okay, we can't put no problems underneath the rug. Okay, let me drop another bomb and then we'll go to the next question because I know this is going to start something. We have to have a conversation about our LGBTQ community. Okay, I know that's fierce, but if we're going to solve this as a Black people, we have to have open, honest, respectful conversation.
Respectful, yes.
About LGBTQ. We're going to have to do it, fam. We're going to have the boldness, the courage to come together and to have a conversation about where we're headed in our future as a people, leaving nobody out. Understanding what is going to be the future is all of us. We're going to have to shake that buck-breaking mentality and have an open conversation as brothers and sisters who love each other.
That's the key,
but find a way to move forward. Say again, brother.
As I'm saying, it's got to be done with love and understanding that we are brothers and sisters regardless.
Only way forward. It's the only way forward. And if we can't do that, we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be in the same hole they are. Yeah. And we're going to stay there until we look at each other and have conversations in order to move forward as a vibrant, healthy, nutritious community. We have to have these conversations. Now, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm sorry to have opened up that and then close it.
No, brother, this is
Next
good.
question.
This is all family, brother. This is God talk.
But you know
and
something? These are conversations we all want to have,
yes,
but time doesn't allow us to have it.
yes,
But we have to have these conversations down, and we have to bring people such as Dr. Elaine Ferguson. We have to bring people like Dr. Wade Noble, psychologist. We have to bring
Yes.
all of our psychologists together, our psychiatrists together. We have to bring our sociologists together, our teachers together. We have to bring our nurses and doctors together. And we as a Black people have to have a conversation on these extremely controversial subjects that is
Absolutely.
acting like an anchor to our ascendancy as a people. We have to have these conversations. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. It'll be nothing but dirt that we put underneath our rug because we don't want to face it.
This is deep.
Pull back the rug. Deal with
This
it.
is deep. This is
Cry.
deep.
Build your bridge, but get over it.
This is deep. This is deep, beloved. Okay, brother, last question. I mean, there's so many more questions, and I want to say to everyone, please, if I didn't ask your question, it's not because I didn't want to or that it wasn't a good question, but what can you do when you got so many questions in the chat line, as well as some of you are still dropping questions in the chat room? Okay. Yes, one simple question has been asked. Will this lecture be available on YouTube? Yes, tomorrow, by the will of God. The whole of this lecture will be ready for tomorrow. The last question, I'll just choose one of them, okay? Sister Sandra Robertson says, how in the world did the name change from Hotep to Jesus? I can't get a definitive on this.
Oh, in Imhotep. Imhotep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding there, but yes,
Yeah,
I think
Imhotep was considered the Prince of Peace. That's what his name means.
Absolutely.
Imhotep means Prince of Peace.
absolutely.
Under the Romans, Imhotep was looked upon, but Imhotep's name was changed by the Greeks as it related to the Hippocratic Oath. In the
Yes.
Hippocratic Oath, Imhotep actually is Asclepius.
Escalapis, that's right.
But Imhotep, you see, we being people, but Black folk in particular, we've never been exposed to the history of the Christian church. And again, this goes back to my book on Amazon, Spirituality Before Religions. And then the third book was Shabaka Stone. What I was attempting to do was to get our community to go back before the religions existed to understand exactly where these stories came from, to understand the scripture. Because you see, Africans, interesting, Africans did not, they had scripture, they had writing, of course, Medu Neter. But along with Medu Neter, they had something that they call Medu Nefer, which is the good word. So that when you talk about certain writings on the walls of Kush Kemet, they were called utterances because they didn't think it was the writing of God. They thought it as the word of God. The word comes forward, the word made flesh. And so they called it utterances. We call them scripture. Scripture meaning script or writing. They called it utterances as it relates to speech. And my research in something known as the physiologus, Physiologus, you can do this. My interest in Black Panther is that in the early Christian church, Clement was a bishop, he was a writer. Augustine was one of the formers of the early Christian doctrine, Black man. But the idea is that what the Indo-Europeans did is they took all the African neteru. They took all of the representations of the creator, the dog, and the cat and the bird. And they translated them into white men. They took all of the saints. That's why the saints have wings.
That's
Because
right.
they're Heru.
That's right.
They copied us. But Jesus the Christ came into existence as a white man, but his symbol was the panther. And that's why the Kush Kemetic priests have Pantera. Before it was a leopard skin, it was a panther skin, from Inner Africa.
That's right.
That was royalty. And the panther was honored and respected. And that panther not only became Jesus Christ, but Bastet was a female.
Female cat.
But they took, because the panther is one of the few animals that has sweet breath.
Jeez.
And the panther will go into a lair, get tired, go to bed, sleep, and then will come out and yawn. And in yawning, the sweet breath goes out, and all of the animals will come smelling the breath around the panther.
Your brother, shut the front door. That's how we got to say it in England. Shut the front door. This is incredible. Incredible teaching.
Google physiologists. Don't believe a word I say, fam. I've got a whole lesson I do on this. That's why I'm akin to the Black Panther.
Door.
Okay, so they likened the sweet breath of the panther that brought forward the animals of the kingdom to Jesus Christ, who had the sweet word that brought forward his disciples and his apostles.
Brother.
This is our history, family. Brother Muhammad, this is our history. And it's time for us to rescue, research, and restore our African greatness.
Wow.
And that is why I wrote the books that I wrote. And that is why I encourage you to go to my webinar. My webinar is up now. It's on my Instagram page. And it's also on my website, www.kabakamene.com.
Say that again one more time, King.
KABAKAMENE.com. That's my website. And my Instagram page is Kaba Kamene, KABAKAMENE. I use my Instagram page as my community page, my community bulletin board, where I put information up. I put various types. For those on Instagram page, you know how I do it. And I put everything in my link in my bio. And the webinars are quick webinars. I try to do no more than somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, where I cover what we talked today about a quick webinar on teaching methodologies. Not just good for teachers, good for parents. It's good for you wherever you work. These are things that you should know. And then I do webinars the first Sunday of every month. That is 5 o'clock my time, Eastern time, 2 o'clock Pacific time, and then 5-hour difference with UK.
Yeah, 10
but
o'clock
if you
out.
sign up, you can 10 o'clock. Okay. But you could always sign up and then see it at your leisure. But see, my thing is, first we have to know our greatness. We have to understand the potential of our greatness. And then we have to understand the demonic situations that we find ourselves in living in the Western world. And there's something we have to understand. And I encourage you to go and Google a presentation Dr. Clark did. It's called You Have No Friends. And, you know, we have to understand the difference between a friend, an ally, and an enemy. Because, you know, in World War II, the United States ally was Russia and China, and the enemies were Japan, Italy, and Germany. After World War II, our friends became Germany, Japan, and Italy, and our enemies became China and Russia. Your ally could become more of an enemy to you after you've allied yourself to get rid of the common enemy.
Mm,
Black folk tend to hang on to allies too long.
too long.
And we have to understand that your ally can become your enemy.
Yes. Yes.
And we hang on to people too long. We need to cut some people loose right now. And we have to understand that. And we have to stop fighting amongst ourselves. And we have to stop waiting for someone else to do something that we should be doing for ourselves. So much prop and respect to West Side for doing what they know they have to do. The curriculum I developed, I don't care about anybody validating. Dr. Clark validated my curriculum. Dr. Ben, Edward Scobie.
The tops.
Okay, Shashi McIntyre. That's who I went to for validation.
The tops.
Bottom line, we have got to have faith in ourselves and to do for self. And we must support each other. Financially, we must support each other because it is the finances that gets West Side going and moving and doing what needs to be done. It is finances that allows me to do the work that I do. It is not the money that's important. It's what you do with it that's important.
Do with it.
In life, you know, nature gives you cards. Everybody born with cards. Brother Muhammad, you have your cards. Sister Camilla, you have your cards. Brother Leonard, you have your cards. I have my cards. We're all born with cards. I have met people who have been given a very bad hand. And I've known people that were given a very good hand. And I've known people with a bad hand that won the game. And I know people that had a good hand lost the game.
Yes.
So it's not the cards that you're given in life that matters. It's
How you use it.
And the fact that we're still here, that we can talk to each other across waters like this, around the world, you know the Creator got some plans for us. And we're fulfilling them as we speak. So my brother Muhammad, I thank you for this opportunity.
Brother, we thank you. Brothers and sisters, please, I mean, you've been doing it all since the brother's been speaking. If you love this brother, and if you could see the Creator in this brother, put some damn ones in that chat room now. Just put it down. Because I don't pay this brother to come on. He comes on because he wants to teach, he wants to deliver, and he wants us uplifted today. I don't pay him any money to do this. But I say this to you, brothers and sisters, get his book now. Hit his website up now. Get onto his courses now. Because he deserves every penny we can pay him, man. Because he's delivered. His bank is in the hearts of our people. So long as he's got our hearts, man, we should be supporting him. Brother, we bow to you. We bow to you. We bow to you. We've still got nearly 400 people still on this platform. And brother, before you go, please, brother, before you go,